Hi everybody, this is Kim. I'm coming in with another episode of The Shy. Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up the video, leave me some comments at the bottom. Let's get this started. This is episode number 9. If you missed some of my other episodes or some of my other recaps, I'll leave them at the top, or you could click the ending clips at the very end of the video. You click those and it'll take you straight to the videos or the playlist. Let's get this one started. Okay, this episode starts off, Emmett is on his way to work. Well, he's walking into his work, which is the chicken spot. And he asks Sonny, what happened to you? And he just basically said, don't worry about it, whatever. And so he's talking about his baby mama, which is Tiffany, and he's saying he want to get custody. He want to take her to court to get it. And Sonny is telling him, you know, it takes money. You're gonna go through the court system, and the judge is still gonna take 20%, and she's still gonna basically get custody. And he was like, well, I need to do something because I want to see my son. And he was like, I need some money. And so he mentioned that he wanted to do business with Q, and Sonny tell him, it's best that you don't get mixed up because this is real business. This ain't no play stuff. This is real business. And in my words, the shit is finna hit the fan, and you don't want to be no part of it. So Emmett just kind of look at him and just kind of think. Now Laverne is on the outside of that church, that little group, and she's going to get in with the other mothers that's been through these tragic events of, you know, their son or their loved one being murdered. So she's standing out there and she's smoking, and she you can tell she ain't really feeling too comfortable about going inside of there. So she smoked a couple of cigarettes and then she make her way in on the inside. Now Tracy is inside the church in the group meeting, and she's basically telling her story. And she's saying that she was 16 when she was given away to this guy. Her father was a junkie and he dropped her off. He owed the man money. So he dropped her off, and the guy that she was in the house with, or that she was given to, he gave her a room and everything, and a TV, and he came in and he raped her, and she said she got pregnant. It was spring. So she got pregnant, and she told the guy that she wanted to have an abortion, and he basically told her, no, it's not going to happen. So she did the only thing that she could think of, and she swallowed a whole bottle of pills, Aleve or some kind of pain pills. And so she says to the guy, you know, if I have this baby, you gotta let me go. You gotta let me go. So and I guess he did, and that's when she had Jason. And we all know who did this. This is Q. She's talking about Q. Q was the man that basically bought her. So as she's telling this story, you know, then Laverne walks into the room, and you know, everybody's crying and everything, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And so she sit down, and the director, the lady who's the host of this group, she introduced everybody. She said, this is Laverne, and she tell the ladies, you know, the Laverne's son, and then she introduced her to Tracy. So now they just kind of looking at each other, and it's just kind of underlying, you know, kind of side eye. So now Brandon and Jerica is getting it on. You hear me? A hot little scene. Even though it's a little dark, but you can clearly tell they really miss each other. They getting it on. So now it's the next morning after Brandon put in all that work. He decided to wake up and cook a little breakfast. So Jerica gets up and she handed him a box, and he opened it, and it's a box full of money. And she tell him, you know, this is just for you so you could get started with your truck. You know, the sale of your mother's house is going to take months, maybe 3 months before you're able to get the money. So this will get you started. So he kind of thank her and give her a kiss and hug and everything. And now Kevin and Papa is in the locker room talking, and Kevin finally tells Papa what happened. I personally think he shouldn't have said nothing. He should have told Papa, it's best that you don't know what happened. Too many people knowing what happened could involve them in getting locked up. You know, you could, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the law to that extent, but I'm just saying, Kevin shouldn't, he's telling too many people. Too many people. So now Ronnie is back on that corner where he killed Coogie, and he's just, you know, paying his respects to. Ronnie is feeling guilty, and he know he needs to do the right thing. So now he goes back home and everything, and he shaved and he cleaned himself up. I know one thing. Ronnie looked a whole lot younger with a clean face. So then he goes in the kitchen and he talks to Jada, and Jada let him know, hey, I was fired. I was let go. She tell him that, you know, the nursing home or the people is going to send out another nurse, and they're probably going to put your mother in a nursing home. You know, you need to make sure she's doing what she's supposed to do. Now, Laverne and Tracy, they leaving the meeting, and Laverne called her and say, you know, yeah, your son was that basketball player. And she was like, yeah. And she tell her, well, you know, my son was questioned in that investigation or whatever, that homicide. And she was like, yeah, I was told that. And she just started telling the story. You know, I was never happier when I had Coogie, and you know, I never got sick, never this, that. And she tell Tracy, you know, my son would never hurt anybody. You know, he was a good kid. He was a really good kid. And she was like, you know, I just felt like you should know that. And then she walks off. So now Q hops in the car with Detective Wallace, and Wallace turned around like, you know, what you think you doing? And so he said, you know, I'm here to talk about our mutual friend, basically. They talking about Trice. And he's saying, you know, Trice think he got things made, and he think he's basically, you know, running things. But how is it that I could come in there and take his dog and take your guns? You know, and he says, you know, let me handle Trice, and me and you could do business. So then Q, after he's saying that they want to work together or whatever, and then Q pulls out an envelope full of money, and he handed it to him, and he was like, okay, so what do you want from me now? You know, and he said, well, who killed that basketball star? And he was like, what do you care? And then Q turned to him and say, he was my son. Which we all knew that by now. So then he turns to him and he says, Trice killed your son. Now Brandon rolls up in that raggedy truck. He rolled up to Louise People auto body shop, and he starts saying, oh, my cousin gonna do this, my cousin gonna do that, and this and that, he gonna paint it, you know, and my other cousin gonna get you a counterfeit license. And Brandon like, wait, hold up, why counterfeit license? And he was like, you know, it takes a long time to get a real one, you know. And he was like, oh, okay. He tell him it looks good far back, but you know, you good. And so Brandon said, he was like, all right, well, how much? And he was like, no, don't worry about it, you good, you cool, you know. Something about Louise, he showed doing a lot for Brandon. I don't know what's going on, but to me, it just don't seem right. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. That might come out next season, but we'll see. Now Reg is at the little yoga spot that Trice is at, and Trice comes out and he was like, oh, where my ride at? And he said, oh, you know, they took your ride up the way to get it clean at that little spot you like. And he was like, oh, okay. Reggie started looking at the chicks, was like, oh, okay, this is why you do this and that. So he was like, you know, did you handle that little problem? And he was like, it takes a little time. And Trice remind him, well, Sticks would have been had it done. You know, Sticks is a little young dude. And he was like, okay, you know, I'm gonna take care of it. So Trice gets in Reggie's car and they pull off. Now Detective Cruz is at home sitting on the couch, and his wife walks in, and he run the story down to her about the investigation. And he know that Detective Wallace has something to do with it, and the fact that the the sergeant don't want to do anything, kind of brushing him off, he know that she might have something to do with it too. So then his wife tell him that she might be pregnant. So he's happy and everything. So I guess they're gonna take a test. So now Kevin and Papa is inside the play and they looking for Jake, and Jake is nowhere to be found. So Kevin walks up to Aunt Andrea and he tell her that, you know, he's sorry that he didn't call her right back, and she's basically saying it's cool. And he was like, you know, about the other night, and she tell him, well, you know, I was meaning to call you and tell you. My parents say I can't date until I'm 18. But he looked at her as if he was heartbroken by it. He's sad. So he was like, oh, okay, all right. She said, you know, but we could still be friends. And she put her hand out to shake his hand. Now Jada is at Ronnie's grandmother's house taking care of her. She tell her that she was let go. And Ronnie's grandmother, Miss Ethel, asked her to hand her a box of the carton of cigarettes. And so she handed to her. And she goes in and pull a couple of cigarettes out, and she put a wad of money in Jada's hand, and Jada was like, I can't take this. And she was like, yes, you can, you know, because she was like, I owe you this because of what you did for my Ronnie, you know, so just take it and be happy. And Jada tell her thank you. Emmett is at the check cashing place and he's trying to cash his check. So the lady is running her mouth with her co-worker and holding up the doggone line. But he hand her his check and she cashed in everything, and his check ain't what he thought it was gonna be. So he's kind of pissed and thinking about, you know, what can he do to get some money, because he want his son back. So Ronnie is on the block waiting on his friends, and as they walking up, they see Ronnie is clean cut. And they call him out on it, talking about, oh, you know, you finna go to court or something? He said, no, you know, but I need a favor from y'all. So now Kevin and Papa is on their way to Jake's house, and they was like, you know, we ain't seen you in a couple of days. You didn't even come to school. And he was like, well, what's school gonna do for me? Reg didn't go to school, and look at him. And Kevin remind him, but he's a drug dealer. And he was like, so I ain't gonna become no doctor. Then Reg pull up and he say, hey, you know, y'all want to come with us? We finna go get something to eat. Papa, I could eat. So they hopped on in the car and they finna go get something. As they riding to get something to eat, Reg asked them, have they had sex yet? And Papa said no, you know, he's basically waiting for marriage. And Red said to him, well, I know you ain't, you know, I know you a virgin, but I'm talking to the other one, talking to Kevin. And Kevin was like, no, you know, so then Reg tried to school them on how to treat women. Ronnie is trying to tell his friends on, you know, how to take care of his grandmother. You know, and as they walk in the house, the grandmama is like, I didn't give you permission to bring two of your friends home with you. And he introduced them. This is Barry and this is the other dude or whatever. I don't know his name. And she was like, look like two bunch of dope things to me. Talking about, at least this one is polite and the other one smell like reefer. So she was like, if you came over here to rob me, here you go, because I ain't got no money. My check don't come till next week. So she tell Ronnie, I want these two out of my house right now. And so she reached for her gun and she pointed at him and was like, y'all better get out right now. And they run out, and then she turned the gun to Ronnie and he tell her, oh, put that gun down. It ain't loaded no way, you know. And then he sit down and start talking to her. And then she looked to Ronnie and say, what is this about? And he said, you know, I just need somebody to look after you. And so she asked him, and, you know, his friends end up leaving. And Ronnie and his grandmother sits down, and it looked like Ronnie want to tell her something. And she basically tell him, you know, I don't want to hear it. You know, I'm too old, and I don't need to be stressed, and I don't need to be worried. You know, I don't want to hear it. Now, Brandon got his truck ready, and he's getting ready to start his business. So he goes to this corner where he see two other trucks, and he pull up, and they run up and like, you know, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm finna set my truck up. And she was like, no, not right here, you're not. And she was like, no, we've been working this corner for 3 years and we holding this spot for somebody else. And he says it's a free country, and she said, no, you need to get across the street. And he was like, but I got my permit and everything, and I'm ready. And that's when the guy looked at the permit and was like, it's a nice counterfeit. So you need to get across the street, or we're gonna call the city. So Brandon kind of looked, and he gotta go, because he ain't right. So Detective Wallace and Detective Cruz is talking, and Detective Cruz basically let Wallace know that he it's some funny business going on with this whole case. So dude come up, the guy that be with Trice, and he says, have you seen Trice? And he was like, yeah, I picked him up this morning, from the yoga thing, and dropped him off at home. And he was like, why? And the guy tell Reg Trice isn't answering his phone. And he was like, well, I don't know. And then the dude asks Reg, well, what you up to? And he was like, nothing, just, playing big homie. I got the boys with me today, and, I'm just playing big homie. He was like, oh, okay, that's what's up. That's cool or whatever. And he was like, well, Trice probably got some chick over there, and probably turned his phone off or something. I don't know. And he was like, oh, okay. All right, I'll holler at you. So he pulls off, and Reg go back over there with Jake and Kevin and Papa. So now Emmett is talking to his baby mama, Tiffany, and as he woke up, she noticed that he don't have any tennis shoes on. He got on like some little slides. And she said, that's an interesting look. And he said, well, I've been making sacrifices. So I'm assuming he sold his shoes in order to get some money to give her. So he tell her, I wanna talk to you about something. So he tell her, I know we haven't been seeing eye to eye, as far as EJ, and it's all my fault, but I'm trying to do better. He reach in his pocket and he give her some money. And she gonna say, okay, we good for now. So then her boyfriend bring over EJ, and Emmett is happy to see his son and everything. And so then she tell him, well, you could keep him for tonight, just just bring him back in the morning. He said, okay. So they start walking off, and the boyfriend noticed that he had the little stuffed animal. So he walks back to Emmett, and he was like, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you with, seeing your son or whatever. And he was like, I appreciate that. And then he tells him, just slide me an extra bill. He want Emmett to give him $100 or some money in order to keep things smooth. And so then he tells Emmett, you don't want no problems. Everything will go smooth as long as you hand me my little cut. So now Jake them and Reg them, they all done eating, and Jake turned around and he noticed the little kid that he got a little beef with. And so Reg asked him, okay, well, who's Corey? And he was like, some little kid, some dude at school that be, talking crap. And so he was like, well, what you gonna do? If you don't do nothing, then everybody gonna think you soft. And Jake just kind of looking, because you could tell he really don't want to fight. So then Reg was like, you scared? And he was like, well, it's all right. It's all right if you scared. I used to be scared too. And then he goes on and he tells them a story about his whole incident. So now after Reg tell him that story, and they was like, he was basically telling him, you only got one chance to prove yourself, to let this person know that you're not scared of them. So Jake get enough courage and he walk over there to Corey. And as soon as Corey turned around, he just hit him in the face, knock him down. But his boys, they jump in. And Reg turned to Kevin and Papa, was like, what y'all doing? Y'all ain't gonna help your boy? So they walks over there. And as Jake is fighting, Papa kind of run to help. But then Kevin kind of pulled him back like, no, you don't want to get involved. So as they all fighting and everything, as the boys jumping Jake, the police roll up and basically pull all of them to the side and search them and everything, and made Kevin and Papa come over too. And Kevin is like, we didn't even do nothing. We didn't do nothing. And she don't care. The police don't care. They gonna search everybody. And in the meantime, Reg is just back in the back, just looking and laughing. So the police let them go, and she tell them, you know, if I see anyone y'all again, I'm gonna lock you up. So now Brandon is set up on the other side of the street, and as he's setting up, he just kind of waiting, you know, for some customers. Sticks and his friend is walking. They was like, ain't that the dude that was at Reg's house? And he was like, yeah, you know. They wondering why Brandon is there. And then they say, I wonder if Reg known. You know, I'm gonna go holler at Reg to see. So now Jake, Papa, and Reg, all them, they get ready to go. They finna leave the little spot they was at. And Kevin and Papa tell them, you know, we fine, we don't want to ride. You know, we'll just catch the bus from here. And Papa said, tell Mr. Reggie thanks for the food. We'll catch up with y'all later. Now, Ronnie is still at his grandmother's house. His grandmother is asleep. And he's just kind of looking. And you could tell something is really wrong with Ronnie. And he finna leave. He give his grandmother a kiss and put the cover over her, and he leaves. So now, after a long day, Brandon is now finna close his truck up, and he noticed that Sarah is walking up. Brandon asked Sarah, how did you know I was here? And she said something about somebody tweeted it out, and that's how she found him. So then she said, well, you moved fast. And he was like, yeah, you know, basically I have to. And then he was like, okay, you know, what's going on? What you need? And she says that the chef know about them. So now Emmett has his son, and they walking and they headed home and everything. And his mother is sitting out on the front. And she tell him, you know, I'm so proud of you. And he tell her, you know, I'm trying. And she says, well, you know, this makes it a lot easier for what I have to tell you. And he said, okay, well, what? And she says she found a new job, and it's going to be the director. It's going to be just like what she used to do, but a bigger and better position. And he basically said, oh, that's good. And he asks her, I think he says when you start or whatever. And she said, well, it's in Seattle. And he just kind of looked at her. Now Brandon is at home, and Jerica is there and asking about his day and everything. And he was like, he's happy. And then he run it down to her like, you know, I don't want anything. He's like, he love her and he happy he with her and everything. But he don't want anything to come up that might mess them up. And she's kind of looking at him, and he let her know. He said, well, when we wasn't together, I slept with somebody. And he tell her who. He said Sarah. And she was like, your boss? And he was like, yeah. And then she was like, well, you know, you didn't know that we was going to get back together. And then she said, well, you know, I slept with somebody too. And he kind of looking like, now is Reg and Jake is in the car and they leaving or whatever. And as they driving, Red stops the car and he get out, and Jake said, you know, I thought we were going home. And he said, we are. I just got to drop off a package real quick. And they gets out the car. Reg popped the trunk open, and it's Trice in the trunk. And Jake is just kind of looking. And he look up at Reggie, and Reggie look at him. Now Ronnie is outside of the police station, and he gets on his phone and he called 911, and he report negligence at his grandmother's house. And he tell the 911 agent that it could be a fire too. So she said, well, I'm gonna send a car right away. And he hangs up. He goes into the police station, and I'm assuming he asked for Detective Cruz. So Detective Cruz comes out looking kind of confused, like, okay, Ronnie, you know. And then Ronnie says to him, I want to confess. And he kind of looked, and he said, to the murder of Coogie Johnson. All right, that's how this episode ends. Don't forget to subscribe. Thumbs up the video. Thumbs up the video. Leave me some comments at the bottom. I'll see y'all in the next one.